Yo, what's up guys? We're back. We're going to do another breakdown and predictions video. This week it's going to be Cage Warriors 177 that I'm going to give you guys right now. I think I'm going to come back. I'm going to give you... I'll try to do both, but for sure I'm going to do Cage Warriors 178 or Invicta, another video for you guys. I don't really like this card, so I'm probably going to blow through a lot of these matchups, but thanks for watching this video. And last time in, really liked the interaction in the comments that I got. I feel like we got a lot more interaction than usual. Good amount of views, good likes. So let's try to do that again, man. Put down below who you think is going to win in these fights. What are your more confident picks, less confident picks? Do you got any upsets, things like that? And, yeah, tell me which video you guys would want more as well. Cage Warriors 178 or Invicta FC. I don't know the number, but whichever Invicta FC card is up next. Would you rather want another Cage Warriors video, or would you rather want the Invicta video? Put it down in the comments. I will try to do both though, but let's get in this first fight of the night. Let's get right into it. Shelly taking on Marin Vitrilla, and they're going to kick off the card here. Obviously, it's going to be at lightweight. Shelly, he's had 6 fights for Cage Warriors. He's 4-2, whereas Marin, he's 0-1 in Cage Warriors, so he's still looking for the first win under their banner. And Shelly, he's been on a 3-fight winning streak. Or he was on a 3-fight winning streak, going into his last fight, but he got dominated, submitted, and he's going to be looking to rebound off that. Whereas Marin, he has won 2 fights in a row. He's looking to right the wrong of his Cage Warriors debut and get this victory in Cage Warriors. And he was a big favorite, actually, in his first fight, but he dropped the ball. He lost via decision. So he's coming in this fight with some momentum. And now he has the experience of the first Cage Warriors fight. He obviously is young in his career with only 5 fights total. So hopefully he'll look a little bit better. But you look at Marin, power hitter. He does stand really upright, which it's good. He can throw hard punches. He can throw some nice fast kicks. And he walks guys down. He'll use that power jab, good cross hooks inside. Very aggressive, throws heat. Pretty solid striking, but, you know, due to standing so upright and loading up on a lot of his strikes, he does give up takedowns pretty easily. He will scramble early on. He will attack submissions as well, and it's difficult to hold down, but he got tired in his Cage Warriors loss. He couldn't stop the takedowns and kind of went hard for a choke early, and I think gassed himself out when he couldn't get it. But his most recent fight, he got taken down a few times, lost the first round, but he did come out pretty sharp in round 2, ended the fight with the guillotine. And you look at it, though, he's never won a fight after round 2, so he's kind of been finisher bust so far. Shelly, kind of a tall, long, and lanky striker where he could pressure, he could pepper with long punches, mix in some low kicks, throw some nice knees, elbows in the clinch, and tries to push the pace, kind of weaponize his cardio, and he's a durable guy. He kind of has that tall man's defense going on. I would say he has terrible defense, actually. And he isn't an elite athlete, but he will take some shots. And if you can't knock him out, he's going to wear you down with this pressure and take over. But he's always going to have a problem with explosive fighters with speed. And if they can maintain their cardio, he's really going to struggle. But you look at Shelly, I think he's going to try to mix it up here. He's going to look to clinch up Vitrilla and try to hit some trips, and he's the most physical fighter, so I think he will struggle initially maybe to get some takedowns, but if he can get on top, or even if he could pull guard, I think he's the better grappler. His chokes are dangerous, although he's never gotten a submission win. I've seen him use his chokes to change position, and his ground and pound is good, and his control is also good, so I feel like if he could settle on top of Marin, he should have a big edge there. But I really don't have a good read on this fight, honestly. I think Shelly is the better fighter, but if he can't get the fight to the ground, he's going to be less athletic. He's going to be at a speed-power disadvantage. I'm going to say Shelly wins this via decision, but yeah, man, this one is kind of a difficult fight. I feel like it could go either way. I think Vitrilla has more potential. It's just how is he going to show up? How is he going to look in this matchup? And he's never really beaten someone at that standard, so I feel like I'm going to pick Shelly there. But this next fight, Conor Patterson, he's taking on Yanmik. Really low-level fight in this one. I mean, Masick, he is going to be making his pro debut here, and Conor Patterson is going to be making his pro debut, and Masick has had one fight as a pro, but he also had 14 amateur fights, so he had quite a few amateur fights, and obviously has some experience there, whereas Conor Patterson, although this is his pro debut, he also had 10 amateur fights where he went 9-1. Obviously, that's a way better record than 6-8, so Patterson is coming in here a pretty significant favorite. But style-wise, it's kind of an interesting fight because we got a grappler against a fighter, Masick, who gets taken down pretty easily but has a lot of submission wins, a good guillotine. But you look at Masick, 6 submissions out of his 7 wins. He gets taken down really easily, and it's like his striking style, I don't like it. He likes to try to counter with the check hook. He throws a lot of kicks moving backwards, which to me, his kicks don't look like they have any power. And doesn't seem like he has a lot of power in the lead hook counter either, so it's like kind of just gives up the space. If guys can back him up in level change, there's really no threat of an uppercut or a knee or anything like that from what I've seen, and he gets taken down pretty easily. I watched him get held down for three rounds in his loss to Gimbat Magomedov, and normally when he loses, it's via decision. He has gotten finished 2 times, but he's lost 5 decisions. His pro debut, he lost the first 2 rounds, and then he ended up getting a guillotine in the third, which is kind of his go-to submission. His cardio looks good. Like, he will stay fresh. He's still going to be hunting submissions for 3 rounds, obviously. But Conor Patterson is a grinder, and his stand-up looks weak. I honestly think that he probably has the inferior striking, but Masick, to me, is not very dangerous on the feet. He's kind of harmless, so I think Patterson is going to be able to easily pressure in, hit the takedowns, and it's just going to come down to if he can avoid being guillotined. Good double. On top, he has solid control. He could transition fairly effectively, and I haven't seen Patterson fight very many opponents with a submission threat, but his grappling looks serviceable enough to me. I feel like Patterson should win this fight, I think, via decision. If he loses, I think it's going to be him getting guillotined. So it's an easy fight to win for him. He just has to avoid that submission, and I think he gets it done. And I do think it'll be a fight that goes over if Patterson wins. So that could potentially be a bet to look at if they do drop the over-under market on that fight, which I haven't seen them drop any props or anything like that yet. But Orlando Prince taking on Solomon Simon in this next fight. And I'm a big fan of this matchmaking. Orlando Prince 5-3, so his record doesn't look good, but it's deceiving because his first 3 wins were kind of easy build-up wins. But since signing with Cage Warriors, he's only fought really tough opponents, and he lost his first 2 Cage Warriors fights in competitive decisions, bounced back with 2 wins last year in 2023, got a title shot in May of this year, and got finished in the second round of that title fight. So he's coming back after that loss, and his opponent is the 4-0 prospect Solomon Simon, and Simon is more experienced than that 4-0 record indicates because he had 18 amateur fights where he went 10-8, and he was up and down as an amateur, obviously, but so far he's been perfect as a pro, and he's fought all right competition in his last 2 wins, but this is definitely a step up, and he's 3-0 in Cage Warriors, Solomon Simon, so if he could take out a recent title challenger in Orlando Prince, it puts him in a really good position. So the winner of this fight is going to be in a good spot to potentially get another title opportunity down the road. But style-wise, really good matchup. Both these fighters are big featherweights, so they'll be able to match each other in terms of frame, and I think they're both athletic as well. As far as athleticism goes, Simon may have an edge, but Prince isn't a non-athlete or anything like that. He does pose some threats, and Solomon Simon, well-rounded fighter. He's primarily a striker and likes to have pretty fights, pick his shots. He walks fighters down. He'll feint fake, wait for fighters to open up, kind of shoot straight punches down the middle. And he can use his athleticism and speed to just keep a lot of fighters at bay, pot shot them. And he's good at staying disciplined, throwing strikes at the right time. He counters kicks well. And he just stays fairly safe. He'll also mix in some nice low kicks of his own. And in this fight, I would try to attack the body. We clearly saw in Prince's last fight that he didn't really like taking body shots. And Orlando Prince is good at moving around. He lands some distracting punches and then looks to wrestle. And he's good with his head movement and evasiveness overall. So he's difficult to hit to the head. He's always shown good durability, so that helps him with the occasional punch that does slip in. And as I stated earlier, though, the body shots are what hurt him in his last fight more than the head strikes. So I think that would be a good avenue for Simon to take. But from what I've seen, Simon is more of a headhunter, and he more throws kind of single shots. He's lower volume. So I think it's a style that Prince could give issues to, in my opinion. If Prince could stay disciplined, not open up too much, kind of not throw naked kicks, stay defensively sound, and then eat up the clock with the clinch control, I think that he could have some pretty good success there. And Orlando Prince, in order to pull the upset, I think has to use that clinch control and wrestling. You know, he has pretty good wrestling, grappling. He's a sticky grappler where he can kind of stay attached to you pretty well. And Solomon Simon has had problems being pushed up and controlled against the cage. He's been taken down in fights too that I've seen. And he's been fighting one-dimensional wrestlers in his pro career for the most part so far. Simon has dropped early rounds to them and played that long game where he got held against the fence for a round or so, maybe got put on his back, but then came hard in the next rounds when they were a little bit tired. And Orlando Prince, I think, is a little bit better at maintaining his gas tank, being smart, being a little bit more, I don't want to say willing, but he's just a little bit more calm on the feet. He's not too worried when he's striking where it's getting him real fatigued, and I think that'll be a difference as well. So unless Simon can get those body shots going early, then I could see him getting grinded out here. I mean, he's good at finding his moments to defend takedowns. He can reverse, get on top, kind of hit some sneaky trip slams himself. And on top, he is good, but I think Prince is going to be the superior grappler. I think he's going to be the guy getting on top more often than not. And cardio-wise, both guys have good cardio, but neither have really done great in decisions. You look at Orlando Prince, 1-2 if you combine his amateur pro career in decisions. Solomon Simon, he hasn't been to a decision as a pro yet, but he was 6-8 in amateur decisions. So if this fight hits the scorecards, I think it could be pretty much 50-50. And due to that, seeing the money line, I'm going to put some money on Orlando Prince, as a small bet. I think Simon is good, and if he has a solid game plan, he should win, but he's inexperienced at the pro level. And Prince isn't an easy matchup. Prince is going to be easy to hit to the head. He's likely going to maintain his gas tank a lot better than previous Simon opponents. I think he's going to be difficult to finish. He's good at bleeding the clock, just kind of controlling you. And as we've seen, both fighters have more losses than wins in decisions, but Prince has fought better competition in those decision wins and losses. And I just slightly leans Prince here for the upset. I personally think the over could be a good bet at the right price too. But I'm going to go with Orlando Prince to hand Solomon Simon his first loss there. But moving it along, we got Oli Sarwa taking on Percy Herrera in this next matchup here. And I don't have a ton of interest in this fight. I mean, it should be a banger from an entertainment perspective, but kind of think it's a trap fight. Oli Sarwa, undefeated with all first-round knockouts. He's only had 4 fights, though, and he's fought a bunch of nobodies. He did go 10-4 as an amateur, and he won some decisions, he earned some late-round finishes, so cardio doesn't seem like an issue, but he's only 3-4 in decisions overall, so he doesn't have a great record there, and he doesn't have very many impressive amateur or pro wins. Percy Herrera, 9-8, journeyman, but fought a ton of good fighters. He has experience, and he won't come in here to just roll over. It's going to be a decent fight, but when you look at how the fight plays out, I mean, early on, Sarwa is going to be a lot faster. He has slick 1-2s. Herrera is super tall and long, and he kind of embraces a brawl. He's very hittable, but he eats shots, kind of forces exchanges where he's dangerous, and very flawed because he's super hittable, doesn't move his head, doesn't check leg kicks, but Herrera's there to bang, and he has been knocked out 3 times, but one was a doctor stoppage. He hasn't been stopped with strikes since 2018. And if this fight just stays standing and Sarwa can't get him out of there early or really damage him with some low kicks, it could end up being a war. So I think the line could potentially look off. But as far as wrestling grappling goes, Herrera's always been very easy to take down. And normally can avoid getting stopped and kind of just negate a lot of damage, but he doesn't have get-up ability. Sarwa, he hasn't got a submission since 2015, and I haven't seen him really wrestle or grapple much in his fights lately. And he does have solid power, so if he knocks out Herrera quickly, it's going to be a good win on his resume. If he can't knock Herrera out early, I think he does definitely need to be ready for war. But even if it does go to decision, I think Sarwa will have the bigger moments and probably win the fight. So I think Sarwa is the rightful favorite. And and should win, but he just has to respect Percy Herrera, prepare for a long fight if need be, and if the over on this matchup is at a great price, then I think it could be worth a potential bet there. So my prediction in that one is going to be Saro via decision, actually. But moving on to this next fight, we got Joe Middleton. He's taking on Jack Damus, and this fight's another one where Joe Middleton, he's kind of been very infrequently fighting. He hasn't fought in a year and a half, and he won that fight via third-round submission. But prior to that fight that he had April 15th, 2023, he hadn't fought since November 2021, and he actually debuted as an amateur in 2012, and his one loss actually was to Jamie Richardson, who's a well-known Cage Warriors fighter, if you guys have heard the name. And, after that Richardson loss in 2013, Middleton didn't fight again until 2021. So I don't know how far Middleton is looking to take his career with all that being said, but this is his Cage Warriors debut, and I'm sure, it's a big moment for him. And he's taking on a man who's been fighting since 2019, and Jack Damus, who kind of breezed through his amateur career. He went 3-0, 3 first-round arm bars against guys that nobody knows. And then his first fight was against the notorious Will Carnes. And that fight isn't even counted on Tapology due to Carnes' history. Will Carnes is a guy who fights anybody anytime, and he could do that because he looked for the quickest possible way out. He doesn't look to win. If you look at his career, 1 win, 42 losses as a pro record, and then he went 3-43 as an amateur, which to me is pretty amazing. I get being paid to get beat up, but going out there 46 times for free to get beat up and only winning 3 times, that's pretty crazy. He should have just went pro way before, but nonetheless, Damus, he came back for a second pro fight, which is the only win that they counted. They didn't count that Carnes win, at least on Tapology, if you look at it here. Then he fought a guy who's 5 wins and 51 losses. So it's like he fought another very similar style opponent to Will Carnes, got the W, and then he's been submitted twice in the first round since then. He did fight a good opponent, one of those guys, Omran Shaban. We saw him on The Ultimate Fighter recently. But, Damus, he's a guy that kind of a one-trick pony to me. It's like he has okay striking, it looks like technically, but if you pressure him, make it ugly, he just kind of falls apart. And he has an okay armbar off his back. If he can't get it early, he kind of checks out a little bit, and he's been submitted himself a couple times. Whereas Middleton, I think he's going to win this fight. He is an intense wrestler. He has kind of gotten himself in some submission danger in his last fight. So Damus, I think, is going to see that, maybe think he has a chance, but he was able to defend all those submissions, and eventually he ended up getting the submission himself in round 3. But, I think he's going to safely hit double legs, grind it out. And I don't think Middleton will win fights with ground and pound that often, but his submission game has gotten him 2 out of his 3 wins. He showed pretty good cardio in that last fight, so I'm going to say he gets the submission win over Damus in the first round in this fight. But, that fight, he's a huge favorite. Obviously, he hasn't been fighting very frequently. Who knows with that one. That one could be kind of a tricky fight there. But, this card, like I said, isn't the best card. But continuing along, we got Angus Huitt taking on Michael Shamu in this fight. And Huitt, the guy went 5-0 as an amateur. He was able to defend the Cage Warriors Southeast title, but his pro career just hasn't been good. He's 1-3 in 4 fights, and he's fought some good opponents, but obviously that's a really ugly record. One of those losses was a DQ, but 1-3, he has to start racking up some wins if he wants to be taken seriously. And his opponent, killer be killed fighter, he has 8 fights. He's 4-4 with 4 finishes. He's been finished in his 4 losses. And the majority of his career has been with Cage Warriors. And he's lost to decent opponents, but his wins are kind of nothing to write home about. Kind of just a middle-of-the-road fighter. And I have virtually zero interest in this fight. I think it's a really trash matchup. Angus Huitt, he's the better fighter overall, I'd say. Much better wrestler, but extremely chinny, bad striker. Michael Shamu is a powerhouse who kind of just uses his athleticism to barrel through guys, and if he can't do that early in round one, you'll fold. He throws heat. He definitely could get Huitt out of there, but if he doesn't, I think Huitt's going to probably embrace the grind and to Shamu on the feet or on the ground in the second or third round. This fight really could go either way. I'm going to predict a second round finish for Huitt, and I think that Shamu's going to go out there. He's going to go hard trying to get the finish in round one. It's not going to materialize, and you'll see Huitt get the fight to the ground in the second and end it there. So, but that fight to me, really could go either way. Both guys I don't think are very good. But Farshad Nazaria taking on Arano in this next fight. Nazaria is a wrestler. He's kind of pretty evasive on the feet. He uses a lot of lateral movement, leg kicks, big overhands. Tries to get fighters to overextend and then take him down. And he's big, muscular. He's pretty explosive, decent control. And he has good cardio too. So he's not the worst fighter. But you look at Arano, he has decent stand-up. He's low volume, but he pressures. He uses a lot of feints. He tries to throw quick strikes out there, and then he will bring heavy counters. He's evasive. He can kind of pot shot over 3 rounds. And he also has decent wrestling and grappling. So I feel like he looked pretty smooth in his debut versus a 3-0 fighter. And I like the over more than anything. I think it's going to go over. Ariano's more skillful, so I'm going to say that he wins this one. I think he's going to pressure, stay sharp, maintain distance, defend takedowns, and win the fight. He has gotten taken down in some fights, so it makes this one, I think competitive. But if I had to make a prediction there, I would go with Arano via decision. And this next fight, Alish Smith taking on Riri Hudson. To me, this is kind of it's a pass too as well. You look at Riri Hudson, she's been really impressive in all 4 of her fights. She had 3 amateur fights, 1 pro fight. She's finished all of them, or I think all except for 1. And Alish Smith, she actually has some decent wins as an amateur, had a long amateur career, and she looks like a pretty solid fighter overall, skill-wise. But, I'm just going to go with Riri Hudson in this fight. I feel like she's going to be able to use her athleticism and get the victory. But the size factor could be a big issue, and I think that this is a dog or pass because Alish Smith is going to be the bigger fighter. She has a lot of experience against good opponents. I don't think she's just going to be an easy washout knockout. So it could end up being a harder fight than Riri Hudson anticipates, and if she's not ready to deal with that, maybe Alish Smith could steal it. But Alish Smith just, if you look at her career, she has a lot of losses, and she's not someone that you should really trust, I don't feel like. So I don't feel like picking her as the underdog and pulling that trigger there. But, I do feel like if there's a big upset on this card, that one could be it. Alish Smith getting this victory. But co-main event, we got Chason Blair taking on Florin Pertia. And I actually like this fight. I think Florin's pretty good. He has a good stand-up. He's probably the better striker technically in terms of he'll attack all 3 parts of the body. He goes nice punches, nice body kicks, good leg kicks. He has a solid jab. He'll throw some good straight punches, overhands over the top. And he's a technical, evasive striker, but he doesn't have that top-end athleticism and explosiveness like a Chason Blair. I feel like Blair is going to have the power advantage. He's going to be able to explode and kind of detonate on Persia and use his athleticism. But mainly, you look at Florin, his takedown defense is not up to par, I don't think, for this matchup. I think Chason Blair, who does have college wrestling pedigree, is going to be able to take him down. You look at Chason Blair's losses, he has gotten submitted in both losses. All right, he got submitted against Hassan Zada and then decisioned, but Persia, I don't think is a big submission threat, but he is going to maybe be hard to hold down early. He has decent scrambling ability, but you look at Florin, he kind of leaves some submission opportunities out there for his opponents, and I think that Chason Blair is someone that is going to be able to capitalize and find that submission, I'll say first or second round. So I just think Persia is fairly skilled technically, but I think that there's a athleticism disadvantage for him here. And I think Blair is also the better wrestler and grappler. So I think that's going to be the factor here. And I think that we're going to see Chason Blair get the submission. And finally, we got the main event. We got a fight that I'm actually looking forward to out of all the fights on this card. I feel like, obviously the main event should be the best, and it is by far. You look at James Sheehan, reigning Cage Warriors champion. He's an experienced operator. He had his first fight in 2013. His first fight, he's been fighting good fighters since then, too. So he's taken a few losses, but all three of the guys that he's lost to as a pro are either Cage Warriors champions, and I think two of the three went to the UFC. And Sheehan actually won the Cage Warriors title his last fight, so he's going to be defending the belt, taking on Giannis Bashar, who Bashar had two big wins in Cage Warriors last year in 2022, I believe. That got him a spot on the Ultimate Fighter. He was on Team McGregor, and he had some memorable moments during that season, but he got knocked out in 20 seconds and didn't show anything. So he's going to be motivated to try to rebound from that. But, most of the time when a fighter gets knocked out in 20 seconds, they don't get a title shot their next fight. But Bashar is in that position, so we'll see if he can pick himself up, dust himself off, and take advantage of it. But you look at Giannis Bashar, he's big for the division, he's strong, good striking. He's a Muay Thai fighter with good pressure, good high guard. He has solid counter punches, good leg kicks, one-punch knockout power. 8 of his 9 wins are knockouts. But he can get timed coming in, not moving his head, and usually he's durable. I mean, his last fight he got sparked out fast, but that was the first time he's ever been knocked out. He does have kind of subpar takedown defense. He does give his back to stand up, and he is a hard guy to control. But, if you're a good back taker, you can definitely grind him out or submit him. But if he can get on top, he has good ground and pounds. Cardio isn't great, but he is a dog. He does fight through fatigue. He maintains his power. Normally, he's a finisher. I mean, he's only been in a decision one time in his career. You look at his opponent, James Sheehan, the champion. He's a tall and technical striker, pressure fighter, good feints. He switches stance as well. I expect a lot of stance switches to try to avoid the leg kicks in this fight. And Sheehan has a nice high guard. He has good head movement, fast hands, good jab, nice counter uppercut, real good combinations on the inside. He rips the body. He has a good chin, solid composure, but he is a little bit too hittable for my liking. He can mix it up. He has decent wrestling, and I expect him to strike early, get reads, and then look to wrestle. And he got taken and held down by Oban Elliott, but his get-ups were good in that fight, and we've seen at this point how good of a grappler that Oban is. But I feel like in this fight, Sheehan is the better wrestler and grappler. I think his knees in the clinch could be a factor, and he tends to build into fights as fights go on, so I think 5 rounds is good for him. And Sheehan is better everywhere. I think unless he gets knocked out early, which in my opinion is not likely, I think he's going to finish in the 3rd, 4th, or 5th round. I think Bashar will slow down, Sheehan will take over and find that stoppage. So personally, that's kind of what I'm feeling in this main event, James Sheehan. And it's kind of weird. I mean, this is the one fight that I don't see a line out yet, so curious why that is and if we're going to see a line. But I'm going to be going with James Sheehan in the main event. I think he'll finish in the 3rd, 4th, or 5th round. So there you have it, guys. Thanks for watching. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I do have a bet on this card already on Patreon. So go to patreon.com/MMA Prediction Guru if you want to check that out. And put a comment down below. Tell me who you're confident in. Tell me which underdogs you think could win. And most importantly, tell me if you'd rather want the Cage Warriors 178 or Invicta predictions video if I could only end up doing one. But as far as my play of the week, I guess for play of the week, I'll say put some money on Orlando Prince as the underdog. I think he can get the job done. And as far as a parlay, I would say go with Conor Patterson, Joe Middleton, and Chason Blair as a parlay. I think that will hit for you. So thanks for watching, guys, and make sure to stay locked in on the channel.